This is Professor Michael Chapman. I'm one of the most experienced IVF doctors in Australia. I believe that an important part that I can contribute is to educate patients in relation to fertility, infertility, and all that involves. These series of podcasts help to educate you. I hope they are helpful to you. If you wish to know more, however, I'm more than happy to have you contact me via email, which is profmchapman@gmail.com, or make an appointment to see me on 9138 4222. Today's podcast is going to be for women over the age of 40. And unfortunately, I see more and more women in this age group who have delayed thinking about having a baby for various reasons. Their careers, not finding Mr. Right, and believing, unfortunately, that they will be able to have a baby whenever they want. The sad news is that fertility declines quite rapidly over the age of 38. At 40, in a 12-month time frame, a couple with everything right, sperm good, open fallopian tubes and ovulation, has only about a 50 to 60% chance of a spontaneous conception, compared with a 30-year-old in that same situation where the chances of success were more like 90. By the age of 45, it drops off even further, and the odds of a spontaneous pregnancy is less than 5. The same statistics also apply in IVF. And as much as the media might tell you that women in their 40s, film stars, singers, famous people are having children in their 40s and even late 40s, many of them are doing it because they're using somebody else's eggs from a younger woman. I do get patients who come along at 41, 42, 43 saying, I want to have a baby. I'm certainly very sympathetic to that cause, knowing that over the years there are many very happy ladies who've gone away with a baby after the care that I've provided. However, people have to be realistic. At 42, the odds of getting more than 3 or 4 eggs at an egg collection following stimulation with high doses of drugs is about average. To get more than 5 is actually incredibly unusual. And even if you had 5 eggs, the odds of getting what's called a blastocyst, a day 5 embryo, which is what we put back in the uterus, the odds of getting that far are probably less than 60%. So even if you embark on an IVF cycle, there will be many cycles where we won't get to the stage of putting an embryo back. Ultimately, those who start a cycle at the age of 42, it's about 50% will actually get an embryo transfer. When we do get that embryo, the risks of it being genetically abnormal is actually very high. Something like 75% of embryos, even if they look good under the microscope, have developed normally, are carrying genetic abnormalities that either will stop them implanting or result in early miscarriage. Very few of them get beyond that. Nature has worked that out, that to stop pregnancies going very far if there are genetic abnormalities. Obviously, Down syndrome is one that's an exception to that, but that's relatively uncommon. On the basis that you may not get to an embryo transfer because the cycle didn't produce the number of eggs we wanted, or that when we got the eggs they wouldn't fertilise, or if they did fertilise they didn't grow to day 5. There are many hurdles to get over before we get an embryo, but when we put that one embryo back, its odds of success, because of those genetic abnormalities that I was talking about, is probably in the region of 10 to 15% in one cycle, which compared with natural conception at 42 is not too bad. So there is a reason to do IVF. The question then arises is, how often should I try to do IVF? It is really a numbers game. The odds are stacking up against you, and with a a 10 to 15% chance once you get an embryo, and you've only got a 50 or 60% chance of getting an embryo. From the time you start, you've probably got less than 5% chance of producing a baby. But almost all of my patients that come to see me in those age groups believe they will be the 5%, and they will go through treatment. And I think it's important that women do go through the treatment. It does no harm, apart from the bank balance, but the odds of success are low. And as long as the woman appreciates that there is that low chance of success, I'm happy to pursue the goal of getting that baby. I get asked how many times should I do it. It's really up to you. It's not up to me to decide how many cycles you should have. Obviously, there are things that I will say to women that it is silly to keep going. And they're the situations where, A, you get no eggs on repeated attempts to stimulate the ovaries, or alternatively, you don't get fertilization on a number of attempts. Then you should stop. Nature is telling you that your eggs are too old and too incompetent to produce a baby. And don't forget that you can access all the previous episodes by going to our website www.theivfjourney.com and select IVF Journey podcast from the navigation menu.